Yes! Rated R by Queens of the Stone Age holds up. It's incredible. It's really good. And this is the album where Queens of the Stone Age proved they are not a fluke. This is not a side project that's kind of quirky. This is going to be one of the bands that is definitive for the next 25 years of music history minimum. Minimum. Queens of the Stone Age is still making good music. And it's funny because I feel like this album is almost like most similar to the last three albums they've done. I really feel like, the first two albums just give you a taste of where Queens of the Stone Age could go. The next three, Songs for the Deaf, Lullabies to Paralyze, Era Vulgaris, are this really like dark, brutal, like Tim Burton, movie era where it just like feels you in that dark aesthetic, the movie Coraline, and just any like dark Tim Burton-y thing where it's just like good, it's twisted and fun. And then the last three are much more focused, kind of a little more artsy, and having a really good time, but they're also still rock really hard. I feel like this record actually fits in perfectly. Like, this actually should, if you're grouping the albums like 4 and 4, this one goes with the later three, and the first album goes with the other three. But once again, feel good hit of the summer. That's the starting song on this record. Oh my God, I'm listening to the album right now on my headphones, and I'm just looking at the track list. I don't think there's a single song that is like not incredible on here. Feel good hit of the summer. This is just an incredible song. So whether you're a longtime rocker wanting to see what Gen Z thinks about rock, or you're Gen Z yourself and you want to figure out like what's the deal, like what should I listen to? Like I heard a couple Queens of the Stone Age songs, or I heard their new songs. Should I get into this first album? Or maybe you've heard some of the other records and you're like, I don't know, like maybe you listen to the first album, you're like, I don't know, something's not clicking yet. Well, then you're in the right place. Because right now we're going to break down Rated R by Queens of the Stone Age. Honestly, in my brain, this is their first album in the sense that this is the first album that really feels like this is a record. This one counts. This one is not a write-off. It's not a throwaway. It's their whole ass. And they were ruthless kind of with like, does this make the record? Is it good enough for the record? That's why some of the B-sides are really good, because those may have been things they would have put on the first album, but now by the time you're at Rated R, like it feels like they're clicking so well and they have so many ideas that they're coming up with that they actually don't feel pressure to like try and make everything work and try and twist everything and rationalize it into like being something that's album worthy. But instead, they just go, we've got so much good stuff that we can just chop all the stuff that's, good, but not like undeniably good. We can put that as B-sides, and that's what they do. Like, I think you've got the red version of this album, the deluxe edition from 2010. And that's where you'll see things like Ode to Clarissa and Born to Hula, which are like some of my favorite Queen songs, but they're totally like long-winded, and they aren't as focused. I mean, not Ode to Clarissa, but Born to Hula. It's just incredible because you look at something like Feel Good Heat of the Summer, which is great, undeniable, but it sounds so different from The Lost Art of Keeping a Secret. Lost Art of Keeping a Secret is probably one of the greatest songs of all time. It's probably one of the best Queens of the Stone Age songs, and it actually kind of fits the formula of the song Just by Radiohead. I think it's a really incredible formula for a song, just structure-wise. So let's go Just Radiohead. So here's the thing. First off, this is when Radiohead, actually looked like a rock band, just in the sense that they were, putting their whole ass into it. I never really got into Radiohead. My family was always, Radiohead haters. They weren't Radiohead enthusiasts. Maybe the meth had gotten to Josh Homme at this point. Out of context. In the first video, I talked about Josh Homme started doing drugs around this time, I believe. And he's now since, sobered up. But I do think there's a thing where it's like, they say that people who are on, on meth or speed, they get really horny. And this is, definitely, you see that with the lyrics here. There's a lot of sexual overtones, undertones, all sorts of tones, right? But, Feel Good Hit of the Summer is about doing a bunch of drugs. It's about all of the different types of drugs. And so if we're just looking, I really think to compare this song, the second song, Lost Art of Keeping a Secret, to the Radiohead song, because then I have this formula of good verse and then big, heavy, verse where you've got interesting chords and melodies going on. And then you've got a chorus that comes in that's just so good. The vocals are drawn out and unforgettable. and then just like it's just big distorted guitars. You kind of rinse and repeat. You throw in a great middle. I don't even recall that this song has a solo, but I know the other one, the Radiohead one, does. And just those two together, like listen back and forth. You'll hear what I'm saying. It's like a really good kind of formula. But then, oh my God, Leg of Lamb. I'm downtown, let myself. It's so good. This is the album that like it feels like an effort. It really comes out. It starts rocking. It keeps rocking. Like let's go to autopilot. Oh, run a fat jet plane with you. This feels more like a Beatles record in the sense that this is like this is a one of a kind record. This puts a smile on my face just hearing it. Because here's the thing: they have this greatness and these great things that are on the first record, the self-titled. But now it feels like they're finally hitting at full speed, and just the tortured guitar tones and everything that you hear on the first record, now they fit with the vocals and the words and the other things, and the band feels integrated. It feels like a powerful team. It feels undeniable. It feels like when there's just all these unison bends, if that's what you'd be doing on guitar. And really what you're doing on guitar, if you don't have is, a fuzz pedal dialed in, what you're doing is you're turning down the tone knob for whatever that pickup is, probably like 4, and then you keep the distortion kind of high. You can maybe ride it like 7 or 8, the tone, the volume. So the volume on your guitar, you're gonna put it like 7, and then you're gonna put your distortion down to like 4. And you're gonna put your fingers there, and basically if you're doing a pentatonic scale, let's say you've got the 5th fret on the E string, right? And then you put your other finger on the high E string, right? You're gonna put another finger on the B string, and you're gonna put it on the 8th fret, and you're gonna hit them both at the same time, and you're gonna bend that finger on the B string on the 8th fret up until that note is very close to, the note that you're playing when you hear it. But both those notes are so close that they're like screaming to get together, and so you can kind of like give that satisfaction of getting there and then coming back down. But when you do the tone like that, you get distortion or fuzz going on. It just makes it scream and sing. It's just so tortured and beautiful. It's crying, it's singing, it's that intensity. And so I think the things that make, creativity is you have creation. I've said this a lot before, but you create a bunch of ideas. You're just completely agnostic, as in you don't have judgment. You don't have well, we should do this, we shouldn't do that. We need something hooky, we need something that's not hooky. You just, whatever good shit you can come up with, whatever you can create, you make it, 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 you make it. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? You make it. And you just do that. And you don't judge. You don't think at all. This is what Rick Rubin talks about, right? Rick Rubin is the record producer who, basically produced the Beastie Boys and got them off the ground, the Beastie Boys. And now he's worked with pretty much everyone, from Red Hot Chili Peppers to The Strokes to Slayer to System of a Down. He's worked with pretty much everyone. But he's just the archetypical person who is creative and doesn't put those limitations. He's almost like very zen, kind of like a hippie, except he really is, kind of at peace. Well, I can't speak for him, but just kind of that wavelength. But he has a really good book on creativity, right? It's how to come up with ideas. And that's really the whole aspect you want to do first. Then the second part, and this is all art, is then you have a voice. You're a critic. You've got a way that you see things that are good and bad. You just like them or you don't like them. And you use that filter of like and dislike, and you feed it all through it. And so you realize, like, oh, it was a good thing I was agnostic and I didn't, pick on my ideas when I was coming up with them, because, there's some ideas in there that weren't that good. But then I took them and they gave me other ideas that were incredible, And if I would have been stifling myself when I was coming up with things and being really restrictive in what I could allow myself to, keep in the pile when I was coming up with stuff, I would have never gotten to the stuff that was really good. So you never know when you're creating. You got to create as much as you can. If you want an album with 10 songs on it, try and write 100. If you just try and finish 100 songs, you're going to realize you ended up writing, probably 10 songs that are incredible and 90 songs that are somewhere in between, good and bad. But you probably don't even need to write 100. I think the number is probably like write 32 songs, and then you'll have 10 incredible songs. Because you'll be able to take, probably 8 of them will be pretty good, almost there. And then you take good pieces from the other songs and you swap them into the spots in the 8 songs that are almost at 10, 10 out of 10, 100% incredible. And you just swap them in. And now those songs are all perfect. And the songs that are like, they had 1 or 2 good parts, but they need another 2 or 3 more good parts. You cannibalize from the other 20 songs. And something that didn't work in one song as the main riff might work as a good like interlude kind of bridge thing or kind of a breakdown or kind of a build in another song. It might work as a quick little intro. Like a really good example of that is Tension Head on this album. But so when you're getting back to the point of the idea of creativity and the critic, you've got to be, the childlike wonder, or even if it's the horror or whatever, angle you want to go, or happiness or sadness, whatever emotion you want. You explore, you create, you're agnostic, you write the lyrics that you think sound corny and stupid and hackney, because you're not going to decide if it's good or bad now. You don't judge when you're coming up with ideas. You come up with as many as you can, so that when you start to judge things and put pieces together and you filter it through the voice of you, the critic, the creative, the one with the voice, the critic, then you want to have all that great stuff you did over here, so you could take it over here and you can chop it down and you can just get to 10 songs. But to first get to 10 songs, you need to create 30 or 40, right? You need to give yourself license to make things that aren't good. Like a lot of them, most of the things, if you make your goal is, I'm going to make things that are kind of interesting, rather than I'm going to make things that are perfect, you'll make a lot more things that are closer to perfect. Right? They did something. There's a quote from Alex Hormozy. I heard him talk about this in an interview, but there was a study I think they did, or like there's something they did, but it was at a school where there was a pottery class happening in this college or whatever. And one class was instructed, make the perfect pot, make the perfect piece of clay, right? You don't have to come into class all quarter. You have, 3 months to make the perfect vase, the best you can. And then the other class, they said, we're going to make something every single time you come in. We're going to start and finish an entire thing every time you come in. And the funny thing was, when you got to the end of the quarter, not only was it the one vase these people had made in the class where they were told to make a perfect vase, but they only make one. The vases that were in the class that made vases every single week and had probably made 20, the first vase, the first clay pot they made beat the clay pot that they had all quarter to do in the other class. Even the fucking first one was better than the thing they spent the entire time doing. And so what that goes to say is if you make your goal, I'm going to be perfect, you're actually going to be dog shit. That's the only way to guarantee it. I know it sounds illogical, but if you look at what actually happens when you do things over time, when you say, I'm going to make one, there's a huge burden, there's a huge thing. Like if I said, I need to make a perfect podcast, I need to get a perfect album review, I need to get a perfect interview, I need to script things out, I need to talk here, I need to figure out what I think about this album. What do I think about this album? Oh my God, what do I think about this album? Oh my God, I should think about it for another week. And no, you shouldn't. What you should do is you should start filming. If you're a band, you should start writing. For me, I used to use the camera on my phone to record myself playing guitar parts. And then eventually I figured out that was taking up too much storage space on my phone. So what if I just record them straight to Instagram? And that works and that's fine. But really what's better is you use the voice memos app in the iPhone, because an audio file takes up an extremely small amount of space. And if you're getting things on your iPhone and you change whatever the setting is on it so that the files are actually slightly bigger when it comes to audio, you actually get a much clearer recording. Even now I realize I might have my audio at too high of a setting. It might be, kind of big, but just audio is such a better format to do that. But get rid of those barriers. I have a guitar. I pick up the guitar. Almost every time I pick up the guitar, I say, we're going to come up with a riff. We're going to come up with a part for a song. So I've probably written like 500 parts to songs over the last, 4 years that I've been doing that. But I've only put out 12 songs, and half of them were just whatever the first idea I had when I wrote them 4 years ago. And they're kind of dog shit. And that's fine though, because it's about getting the reps in. It's not about being perfect. And so that's where it's like, you're going to get way better by just doing. How am I going to get better at podcasting? Just doing it. And the same thing here is when you make your goal, do 100. This is Alex Hormozi says in all of his books, but he says this is philosophy is you say do 100 of something. How many podcasts am I doing this month? Guess how many podcasts I'm doing this month. I'm doing 130. That's my goal. 132, I think, to be exact. It's that I'm going to do 33 podcasts a week, and I'm going to release 4 a day on average, times 28 days gives me over 100. But the whole reason I go to say this is you're measuring your inputs and how much effort you're going to do in terms of hundreds. And before you go to say, did podcasting work? Did doing clips of podcasting work? Did that help get people, the message out there that'll help me build a community of people who like rock music? And did that help me bring back rock and kind of build that community so that we can bring back rock eventually and have discussions? And did I put my flag up and attract my peers and people who are similar to me and, kind of inspire me? Did I attract that community? Did that work? You don't look and see if it worked after doing one video and saying it needs to be perfect and spending a month making the video. What you do is you sit down and you do 100 of them. You do 12 podcasts a day for 8 or 9 days in a row, and you see what happens, and you post them, and you try and make good thumbnails, not perfect thumbnails, but thumbnails that work. A thumbnail is supposed to be this, according to Mr. Beast, is you put your face here and you go, big expression, and then you put the thing here. In the top left corner, this might be flipped for you if you're watching the video, but in the top left corner, you have a big expressive face, ultra expressive. And then in the bottom right corner, you've got the image. So the eye starts with the big expressive face and then goes to the thing they're reacting to. And then you can throw on a little bit of clickbait, either something that plays on, a primary driver emotion, whether that's someone's vanity, someone's guilt, or a lack of them being a good person if it's guilt, right? You might be a bad person, or you might be being lied to, or you might be doing a disservice to yourself. You play on either people's fear or enjoyment and excitement, but you have to go on these strong emotions. And so this review is going to be titled, Does Rated R by Queens of the Stone Age hold up? Or does it pass the sniff test, right? Something like that. Is it any good? And the answer is clearly yes. And for the first 100 of these, pretty much the answer is going to be yes. Like even with Cage the Elephant, I did a review on all the Cage the Elephant albums. And even though the first 2 albums are the only rock albums, I'm still honest to say that Tell Me I'm Pretty is a good record. But when you're looking at like a rock band and what Cage the Elephant did with their first 2, you're like, well, this is garbage compared to it. It's like you just made generic kind of like good pop music. Nothing wrong with that, and it's good. It's good at what it's doing. But as a rock fan, someone who likes rock, and this is one of the only rock bands the last 20 years, you're like, why are all these rock bands going soft? Right? Like Queens of the Stone Age didn't go soft. Like, and here's the barometer for that. When to tell if a rock band went soft, look at when they play their early material live today. Is it embarrassing? Do you cringe? Is it cringeworthy? Because when the Arctic Monkeys do the early stuff now, it's cringeworthy. Not to me, because I like everything the Arctic Monkeys do. But I think, objectively speaking, if you just heard it compared to the original song, you're like, oh God, this is bad. It's cringe. And Cage the Elephant's the same way. If Cage the Elephant goes to play like Aberdeen now, or Indie Kids, or anything off the first 2 records that isn't like one of the big hits that they played forever, it's much cringier. And you see that with a lot of bands, right? The Strokes. Oh my God. That's the example. Like if you just compare like the latest Strokes song, the latest album to the 3rd album, you just go like, oh, one of these bands is incredible and innovative. And one of the greatest things to ever happen to rock music. And the other one made this piece of garbage that just came out. And I, once again, am a stan. I like these bands unconditionally. But I can also acknowledge that these bands have dropped the ball. They have gone soft. And why is that? I don't know. I'm not certain for sure. But a band like Queens of the Stone Age and Muse and, some of these bands, the Black Keys, they have not gone soft. They have not gone soft. And I'll tell you, it's the exact test I'm talking about. When I went and saw Queens of the Stone Age a couple months ago, and they were here in Phoenix, downtown, they opened with Regular John, the first song off their first album from 1998. That was 26 years ago. And how did it sound compared to the live footage of them playing it back then and the record, the album take that they have on the record? It sounded better. It sounded more authentic. It was more brutal. It was more incredible and intense and visceral and raw. The creativity in the voices when they wrote the song, but the intensity is the thing that makes it rock. And that intensity was greater when they played it today. That's what it is really is. These bands get less intense. And that's the thing is Arctic Monkeys on the record, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, though it's weird and not a rock record, it's intense. It's intense. There's moments like, I'll be by the back phone, opening credits roll. Ooh. It's so intense. It's, it's vulnerable. That's another way of getting an intensity. That's a part of it. But it's intense. That record still works despite not being a rock record. But Queens of Stone Age is still intense. And this record is intense. The first record's kind of intense, but it feels like they're not ready to be that vulnerable and to be bleeding and screaming and crying through the guitars and through the vocals and through the lyrics and the word choice and things. That's why something like Last Resort by Papa Roach, as much as you can go, that's corny, if you just read the lyrics, when you hear it, when you feel it, the intensity that's there, oh my God, it rocks. And so people call that authenticity. It's like, I think if you can actually tap into the intensity that it was written with and that needs to, transform it into rock, that's always there with you. You don't lose that. It doesn't matter if you're not that same person anymore. You always are the person who has that intensity. You're always a person who feels strong emotions. You don't stop feeling emotions. You might feel different emotions more often at different points in your life. You never stop feeling them. And so when you do a cover and you're not in it, you don't feel it, that's when it feels cheap. That's when it's cringy, right? I always have trouble speaking and singing, and I'm always very self-conscious of it. But when I go and I'm in the flow and I'm really feeling something, I sing the best I ever had. I have the best range, the best clarity, the best diction. And that's sometimes not always what you hear on a record. Maybe that's not in the studio, but maybe that's when you're rehearsing. Maybe that's when you're playing live. And I think that intensity element, when it's not there, that's how you know a band's gone soft. And how do you tell? Well, you look at the band playing their old material now. Can they deliver it with the same intensity or, sufficient intensity enough to, actually make the song rock? And if the band doesn't rock when they play their old stuff, when they stop making music that rocks, then they've gone soft. Queens of the Stone Age has not gone soft. I'm glad to report. The Black Keys have not gone soft. And that's the thing. The Black Keys can make poppier music. The latest single they have for the record, all the beautiful people say, hey. It's good. It's catchy. It's a fun pop song. It's a grocery store, car commercial. Grandma's going to sing along. Whole family event. Fun, PG song. Not incredibly intense emotions. But when they go and play in some of the other songs I'm certain on the record, but even Let's Rock, which came out 5 years ago, which is funny to say now, but in 2019, after the band's been playing for 18, 20 years, they can still play. When the Black Keys play something off of Thick Freakness or Brothers or even Let's Rock that rocks, they still deliver with that intensity. I still believe it. I don't cringe at them playing their old music. That doesn't sound like a bad covers band massacring a masterpiece. And likewise with Queens of the Stone Age. So let's get back to this record. Now that we've kind of went on a little bit of a journey here. Tension has an incredible song. The riffs on this are great. The best song on this record is I Think I Lost My Headache. Here's I'm going to recommend songs to listen to. The Lost Art of Keeping a Secret is undeniably the greatest song on this record. It's one of Queen's best. It's one of the best rock songs of the last 30 years. Smells Like Teen Spirit, Lost Art of Keeping a Secret. It's one of these songs, Seven Nation Army. It's that good. Feel Good Hit of the Summer is very dude bro-y but fun. Monsters in the Carousel is so fun and twisted, especially if you get into it and you listen to it on the chorus. You get a smirk. You just get an evil, nasty grin that starts creeping across your face, and you love it. In the Fade, beautiful. Ironically, sounds very similar to that one Limp Bizkit song. Let me pull it up. Limp Bizkit. Let's go. Limp Bizkit discography. Let's see what song it is. I'm comparing this band to Limp Bizkit now. No reply. Oh, Rearranged. So Rearranged by Limp Bizkit, off Significant Other, is actually strangely, kind of a similar vibe to In the Fade. That's a good comparison to me. Tension Head's brilliant. Better Living Through Chemistry is beautiful. This record's amazing. Go listen to it. But if you want something that's a little more intense that rocks harder, stay in tune. I Think I Lost My Headache, though, is one of my favorite songs. Now, the ending part where it's like just saxophones and trumpets going off for a while, that's excessive. Maybe they should have had an edit where it's just, the beginning of the song. But Queens of Stone Age like to do this, where they'd have a big, great, grand, incredible song at the end of the record, and then have a reprise of like horns or different arrangement of it that's more Baroque, or almost sounds like more mariachi, and it comes back. And I really appreciate that. But I also think it'd be good if there was like a single version of the song too, like a radio edit. But I Think I Lost My Headache is one of the greatest songs. Watch them, I believe it's 2005, live at like Hellfest in Germany, in Belfast or something like that. Let me pull it up. But this is one of the greatest performances of all time. The most intense. Queens of Stone Age. I Think I Lost My Headache. And you know why. Oh my god. It's the steel drum synth. It's just so good. What festival is this? Yeah. It's I'm pretty certain it's like 2005, maybe 2004. And it's them doing Lullabies for Paralyzed, like that tour. And it's just so incredibly good. Yeah, if you type in I Think I Lost My Headache, Queens of Stone Age live, it's just so good. It's when they have a chick playing the keyboards, like this like hot goth chick, and the drummer is just covered in tattoos. It's just an incredible, so iconic. Troy Van Leeuwen, Josh Homme. I mean, some of the greatest like guitarists of all time. Like the most guitarists ever. Like you've got Slash, you've got Frank Zappa, you've got Jimmy Page. I mean, you've got, you've got John Lennon, you've got some of these people, but like this is some of the most guitarist shit ever. I Think I Lost My Headache is like the devious, like dirty little secret you want to keep tucked away. And so if you like, the flirty, stanky kind of dark grooves, then you better join. You better click on. So what are boomers going to think of this record? Boomers are going to think this is an interesting record, not really my favorite. Gen Z is going to be like, oh, this scratches the itch of kind of more chaotic and all over the place. Now, on that note, we are going to go into now Songs for the Deaf. The ultimate, the quintessential Queens of the Stone Age record. Are you prepared? I don't know. Okay? You, dear viewer, internet listener, podcast enjoyer, YouTube review enthusiast, TikTok kitten, we are about to discuss Songs for the Deaf. So please take a moment and click the video, locate the video, then click it. You found it? Okay, now 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds to click the video. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You clicked it? Did you click it? You did? Okay, well, I'll see you there and rock on.